Welcome to my show. Today, we're going to look at the top 10 underrated film noir movies from the 1950s. As we saw in my previous video, the 50s were not considered to be very creative in the world of filmmaking. If they were to be rated, which they weren't back then, probably G and PG. However, one genre that thrived was the noir genre. The film noir genre is undoubtedly unique, as it's perhaps the only genre with a specific period during which it existed, from the early 1940s until the end of the 1950s. There were movies before this period that led to what can be classified as film noir, and noir movies made after the 1950s were over. They were sometimes called neo-noir films. To be a classic, quintessential film noir movie, though, a movie must have been released in the 40s or 50s. Film noir movies are classified by their morally dubious characters, moody atmospheres, sometimes complex plots, downbeat endings, and specific visual aesthetics that are instantly recognizable. Many film noir movies were released during the genre's reign, and some lesser-known ones tend to get overlooked. These overlooked movies included the following, which all came out in the 1950s and are undoubtedly worth watching for anyone who's into film noir as genre.
I was somebody. I'm no traitor, Sheriff. I won a Silver Star.
Let's start the countdown with number 10, Suddenly, from 1954.
Mrs. Benson?
Yes?
For heaven's sake, FBI.
Just like many film noir movies made before, and a few made since, 1954 Suddenly is a no-nonsense, straight-to-the-point and wastes little time because of its 77-minute runtime. The plot revolves around an assassin taking a family hostage while using their home as a location from which he can potentially assassinate the U.S. president, who's passing through the small town in which the film takes place. Suddenly is the rare movie that can be watched on Wikipedia, of all places, on account of its copyright not being renewed. It's worth watching for anyone who likes old-school thrillers and has 70-ish minutes to kill. It is also memorable for starring Frank Sinatra in one of his most interesting and villainous scary roles he ever played.
What do you want?
A few honest words.
From you?
Right now, 2 men are coming over here to pull you out of your respectable little world so fast, you won't know what hit you.
The number 9 film on our list is Nightfall from 1956.
Why me?
Because you were unlucky enough to talk to me tonight.
The screen brings you a new adventure in astonishment.
Running for just 1 minute longer than those above Suddenly, Nightfall is another tightly paced and engaging film noir movie that injects its thriller crime story with a bit of romance. The plot centers on a man accused of crimes he didn't commit, so he goes on the run, hoping to evade both the law and those responsible for the crimes he's being blamed for. It's twisty in a way that might hit familiar beats for those who are savvy about film noir. Yet it may still surprise those who aren't too familiar with the genre. Nightfall may not be a towering cinematic achievement or a masterpiece by any means, but it gets the job done and satisfies in precisely the ways a film of this kind should, and as such, it's easy to recommend.
I made appointment for my son's memorial service. I've never missed one in 9 years. I'm sure we'll find Mr. Shuto right after the service.
Koyasan Temple?
Yes.
Fine, come on.
Now we're up to number 8, The Crimson Kimono from 1959.
Yes. He's not going to get hurt, is he?
Nah, just gonna ask him a few questions, that's all.
He's the one in the gray suit, big man.
Shuto-san. お尋ねしたいことがあるんですけど。You know, a few questions about the stripper, Sugar Touch.
As mentioned before, noir-flavored movies released from 1960 onwards aren't typically considered accurate film noir movies. Anything released at the end of the 1950s is definable as examples of late film noir flicks. The Crimson Kimono is one of the best and isn't quite as well known as 1958's Touch of Evil. It's occasionally heralded as the final great film noir movie. The Crimson Kimono is very bold, considering it was released in 1959, with its narrative concerning 2 men trying to solve the murder of a stripper. It's progressive to have a main character be a Japanese man without treating him like a comical sidekick, which sadly seems to happen often if one goes back far enough in film history. The story itself is also brave, as are some of the themes it deals with, ensuring The Crimson Kimono holds up surprisingly well for a film of its age.
Keep going.
You get nailed, not me. I'm turning around.
What's the idea? You can't turn around here.
I didn't want to get mixed up in that traffic. See, we're a little late for our shift.
Get in that line and keep moving.
Now we're at number 7, Armored Car Robbery from 1950.
License not available.
Hey,
All
Rose,
units, attention.
what's that on your leg?
Bulletin on armored
Must
car
have come off that last car we checked. Say, that's blood.
While it might not qualify as an actual action movie, Armored Car Robbery isn't too far off. It's particularly fast-paced, explosive, and exciting by the standards of classic film noir. Its beautiful title also sums up exactly what to expect narratively from the film. This 67-minute-long movie follows a tense robbery and its aftermath, showing various crooks attempting to get away with what they've taken. It's particularly short, even by the standards of the 1950s. But the brevity of Armored Car Robbery is one of its best qualities. It's hard to imagine anyone coming away from a movie like this feeling like it wasted their time or was dishonest about the kind of movie it was. It gets in and out in near record time and is very well paced.
Mr. Brown, tell him not to do it. I'll do anything you want. I'll go away. You'll never see me again. Please, Mr. Brown, don't just stand there and kill me.
Now we're at number 6, The Big Combo from 1955.
I feel sorry for you, Joe. So I'm going to do you a favor. You won't hear the bullets.
The Big Combo is quintessentially film noir through and through, with some of the most striking shots and sequences of the entire genre movement present in the film, and its title being perfectly noir too. There's something to be said about how great the adjective noun sorts of titles sound for this genre. See something as early as The Maltese Falcon, a crucial, quintessential film noir title, and itself one of the first big actual film noir movies. As for The Big Combo, though, this engaging and consistently tense crime film revolves around a police lieutenant who's trying to bring a gangster to justice, while also finding himself falling for the same gangster's girlfriend. It takes a film noir kind of premise and other genre conventions, dials them up. Maybe not quite to 11, but ultimately not far off. This makes it ideal for anyone who likes their film noir movies to be as bombastic and in your face as possible.
What's waiting for you, Harris? The chair, the gas chamber, or just a rope?
Now we're at number 5, Kansas City Confidential from 1952.
This job you're talking about, I said I'd listen. You're a cop killer. They killed one on that last deal.
Kansas City Confidential was a standout title released that year. Its plot combines the aftermath of a dramatic robbery with a main character accused of a crime he didn't commit, specifically the robbery in question. As a result, he inevitably finds himself on a desperate quest to prove his innocence. Consequences ensue, just as they always seem to do in movies like this. But as is the case with most great film noir movies, the predictability of the plot in Kansas City Confidential isn't detrimental. In fact, predictable isn't even that fair of a word to use, as it's more of a crushing sense of inevitability. People are forced into difficult situations where it's unlikely for such individuals to emerge from whatever they're stuck in unscathed.
What's going on down there? Were those shots? You better call the police. There's been a murder.
Now we're at number 4, Woman on the Run from 1950.
It's bad enough to be alone in a big city with no place to go. But as soon as the newspapers hit the streets and the killer finds out he didn't get your husband, there'll be guys looking for him with guns.
Joining the likes of Armored Car Robbery is a movie that tells you most of what you need to know. From the title alone, a woman finds herself on the run in the 1950s. Things kick off with the woman's husband also being on the run after witnessing a murder, at which point his wife tries to locate him and finds herself in another kind of sticky situation. In typical film noir fashion, things start relatively simple in Woman on the Run and snowball to dramatic effect. It's a movie that packs a great deal into a runtime of less than 80 minutes, meaning that as far as film noir movies goes, Woman on the Run can count itself as one of the most thrilling and fast-paced.
You don't tell them the truth, they're gonna get rid of me, understand? Now, what's my name?
Coming up on number 3, House of Bamboo from 1955.
Reason why you left and didn't come back.
Oh, but it would be dangerous for you, too.
Yeah, but I've got to stay here.
While House of Bamboo is a crime movie that takes place in Japan, it can't be counted as a Yakuza movie necessarily, as its main characters are American gangsters conducting their business in Japan, as well as authority figures who want to take them down. Things kick off with a murder and then the introduction of a mysterious young man, the film's protagonist, who runs into the gang members who likely had something to do with the initial murder. House of Bamboo was a rare film noir movie that was shot in color and in widescreen. It makes the most of both. The story is still dark even while the colors are vibrant, and much of it looks amazingly well shot and well composed, even if it's not quite as intimate or claustrophobic as some other film noir movies. It takes conventions and tropes and presents everything differently, making it one of the most unusual and distinctive classic film noir flicks.
Its back streets and brooding alleys become a jungle, and its denizens stretch out their claws of violence from the shadows. That's where I come in. Sims, Homicide.
Coming upon number 2, it's Crime Wave from 1953.
Because murder is my business, and midnight is my beat, and it takes me to the real story behind 1,000 front-page headlines.
Amusingly featuring Charles Bronson in an early supporting role, Crime Wave is another film noir movie that unfolds fast and with fury, with a runtime of just 73 minutes. Narratively, it concerns a man on parole who's forced into a difficult situation when some old cellmates locate him and begin to pressure him into joining them on a robbery-related job. Sure, it's a simple premise, but Crime Wave makes it work and finds a good deal of drama and suspense, certainly enough to sustain its brief runtime. Watching it, you can tell it's a little on the low-budget side, but how it all feels thrown together and a little rougher on the edges also makes it feel more vibrant, authentic, and in the moment. Crime Wave turns a potential weakness into a strength in that way.
Good morning, Mr. Blaine.
Good morning, Mrs. Blaine.
Without you, I have nothing.
And the number 1 underrated film noir from the 1950s is Sudden Fear from 1952.
You said we were going to the summer house. You can't back out now.
Mister, why are you so excited?
I mean, I've been looking forward to being alone with you.
Unlike many of the above film noir movies, Sudden Fear ends up having a reasonably beefy runtime, clocking in at just 8 minutes shy of 2 hours. It uses its time to build tension very gradually, as, while there isn't much excitement in the film until its final act, the first 2 acts are still vital in getting the viewer there and making them best appreciate those theatrical final scenes. Sudden Fear is a top-tier 1950s release, film noir or otherwise, considerably elevated from a significant lead. Joan Crawford's performance, here playing a woman who suspects her new husband of wanting to kill her, so she plots to get the jump on him first. It's outlandish in a way, but it makes its somewhat high-concept premise work and remains a blast to watch, 70-plus years on from its release. That was our show for today. What did you think? Are you a fan of noir movies? What movie do you think should have made this list? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. And as always, I'd be honored if you subscribe to my channel, ring the bell to stay informed, and check out the Carl Vincent Vampire Hunter franchise also in the comments section. And until next time, this is Kevin Given saying, live long and prosper, may the force be with you, and keep reaching for the stars.